Entry, Wednesday, 21st of May 2025. The sociopathic mother-in-law next door. So, where was I up to? So we've basically moved in the husk and stepdad into this brand new, newly built, state-of-the-art, one-bedroom lodge, which is situated at the back of the garden, behind the outbuilding, tucked away neatly with its own little plot, where it can kind of come and go as they like. They're independent. They've got a little view out into our garden, but their little plot is fenced off, and they access it down the side of the outbuilding, and they use our drive as entrance. So we share the same entrance. But generally speaking, there's enough privacy there to, things are situated in a way where there's a decent amount of privacy. Another thing that I did was I built like a small summer house in the back of the garden and converted it into a bar, and it became a sort of a social meeting place, neutral ground, so to speak, to socialise on a weekend with them, when it suited. Stepdad still had an allotment back at the hometown, so I used to take him there every day, drop him off. Half an hour journey in the car, 25 miles. I used to drop him off there every morning, and then he would make his way back on the bus when he was done. The husk had a sort of a part-time job. When I say part-time, a couple of hours a day, being a chaperone in a taxi for children with additional needs, taking them to school. She would be the chaperone in the taxi to look after them. So she still did 2 or 3 hours work a day, because obviously she's completely screwed when it comes to finances. So she still has to work at the age of whatever that was, 70. What else about that period? So just to sort of summarise, we've taken all of their debt away. We've helped take all of their debt away. We've given them a free plot of land in a beautiful garden with a view, given them their own section of that garden to enjoy outdoors, brand new one-bedroom lodge, and a lifestyle in the village with village pub, shop, bakers, village hall, a community, quiet life, perfect life for retirement. And as far as outgoings are concerned, the only thing she needs to do is pay for whatever electricity she uses. So yeah, pretty much solved all of our problems, or at least the problems that we thought were the root cause of our miserableness. And roadkill has, thanks to us, got herself inheritance early, and the husk is in a very, very privileged position that the beacon has spent her inheritance on the husk. And also she's in the privileged, another element to being in that privileged position is that she is alive to enjoy watching her other daughter, Roadkill, enjoy her inheritance, because obviously normally a parent wouldn't be around to watch the children enjoy the inheritance, if that's the right phrase. So yeah, very privileged. As time went on, obviously every decision we're making, to a certain degree, because we're all sharing the same property, yeah, they might be detached and they might be independent or self-sufficient, so to speak. They're still living in our property, on our land. So a lot of every decision that you make, you're effectively living with one another. Every decision that you make, just about, can affect each other. So you have to make sure that those decisions are the right decisions, and that you involve others when those decisions affect them. And I'm sure that makes perfect sense. That's called living with someone. When your decisions affect them, which they most likely will, you should make sure it's the right decision, or you should include them in the decision-making process. And it became very clear early on that a lot of the characteristics of the husk, which we knew about, were kind of happening more and more frequently, where she just wouldn't involve you in the decision making. She wouldn't run anything past you. She would make decisions on impulse rather than actually thinking them through, and then invariably there would be the wrong decisions. Because when you make decisions purely on impulse, on your emotions, how it feels, that's only ever going to deliver you results, random results. It's only when you make a decision based on rationality, logic, common sense, right or wrong, only when you make those types of well thought out decisions, imagination, how it's going to affect you or everybody in the future, how it's going to come back, only when you make decisions like that are you more likely to get things right. So it became more and more apparent that her decision making was completely broken, and she just had no regard for us. And these might have just been little things. Nothing in the early stages, nothing stands out per se. Just generally speaking, lots of minor frustrations about our decision making, and particularly when it comes to our daughter. She just without checking with us, she'll just go ahead and text. Because this is the thing, the mobile phone's a weapon in the hands of a sociopath. It's their back door to ignoring the rules and ignoring your wishes. And when I say rules, I mean just when you ask her not to ask our daughter something, don't ask her, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. You should always check with a parent before you approach the child on any subject really. And she would just go behind our back, go against our wishes, and just text our daughter, and our daughter is obviously totally oblivious to all this. She's got no reason to be suspicious. She doesn't know that she's dealing with a sociopath. And the husk just goes behind our back and gets away with it. By the time we find out she's done it, the thing is already done, whatever that may be. So we end up getting angry. The Beacon and I get frustrated, but there's nothing we can do about it, because if you try and challenge the husk, she just gets completely defensive, puts her guard up, and cannot put herself in your shoes whatsoever, has no empathy, and will never take responsibility for the things that she's done, and it just becomes exhausting. And that's just one example of the types of things she would do. I made it clear to her, this is another good example, I made it clear to her that her dog was not allowed in my garden, and I don't need to give any justifications for that. I don't want me next door neighbour's dog in my garden. My back garden was completely separate to her little plot. It's fenced off, just with a low fence, and the route out of her property, her part of the property, her route out doesn't go anywhere near my garden. But there was I put a little gate in her fence, a little gate, and a little path to the bar that I had built. And that's all that gate was meant for. Well, it was actually there was two things. Initially it was for the bar, but the second benefit of having a little gate was for stepdad, because I ended up building him a little vegetable patch at the bottom of the garden, because it was becoming too much for him to keep travelling back to the town to go to his allotment. So I eventually built him a little vegetable plot as well, and built a greenhouse and all of that sort of stuff. So the gate was there for him to access the vegetable plot, and for them to come across to the bar when invited. That's all that gate was there for. But I knew, because obviously I know what she's like, I knew that she would probably abuse that gate when we were away, say on a weekend away or a holiday. So she knew, I made it clear, the dog's not allowed in the garden. And I didn't say when we go on holiday. I just said the dog's not allowed in the garden. That's it. I made that clear boundary. And she acknowledged it, because I would hear, you know these people that speak to their dogs as if they're human. And I don't mean saying morning son, oh, have you enjoyed your run? I don't mean that. I mean actually speaking to them like, no, you're not allowed in the garden, Flynn. Mark doesn't want you in the garden. Like, she would say that in front of us, and I believe that that's a guilt trip, trying to guilt trip us. And I don't know why she's got a problem with her dog not being allowed in my garden. I've given her own plot and her own little patch of garden, which is lovely, for free. I don't know why she needs to let her dog out into my garden. Take the dog on the field. We're in the middle of the countryside. Take the dog out in the fields. Anyway, I knew that when we were away for weekends, I knew that she was letting the dog out into our garden, because I'm very particular with my garden, and let's just say I know when a dog's been in my garden. I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to justify what being the fact that I'm particular with my garden, and I like things the way I like them, and I can tell when they've been upset by a dog. Let's just put it that way. So I knew she was letting the dog out in the garden when we went on holiday, and that started to frustrate us because it's just sheer disrespect. Doing things that the owner doesn't want you to do, just because they're not there and you think you can get away with it. It's just completely disrespectful and makes you lose trust. But didn't surprise us, because obviously I knew what she was like. But I was disappointed because I thought she would respect. I did think she would respect our property and our wishes, and the advice that we would give, and when it comes to the advice or wishes that we would give when it comes to how she interacts or behaves around our daughter, and the things that she either asks her to do or gives her. Things like pocket money. No, please don't give her that much pocket money. That's far too much money. She's just a young girl. She doesn't need that much money. Again, notice the money thing. Obsessed with putting money in cards, obsessed with giving pocket money. Are you just trying to buy our love? Probably. So yeah, no respect for boundaries. It was becoming increasingly obvious that she had no respect for boundaries. But when you're there, she pretends to respect them with the utmost, compliance. It's all just an act. So it would just at times become a little bit unbearable, just having to put up with her impulse decision making, and the fact that you couldn't give her any feedback because she would just go into a sulk and never take responsibility and completely go against what you've asked her to do anyway. It just become a little bit harder work. But because stepdad was there, and I was having, I've got a good, strong relationship with stepdad, the four of us, the dynamic, the good balanced out the bad, and the four of us would go for a drink most weekends in a little bar and have a laugh. But there was early signs as well that once she had a drink, because she doesn't drink very much. When I say drink very much, I don't mean how regular she drinks. I mean how the volume that she drinks. She never gets drunk, and I think there's a reason for that. So it started to become apparent that when we would go to the bar for a drink, she'd be let her guard down a little bit more, because she was allowing herself to drink a bit more. The guard came down when she had a drink. The inhibitions were lowered, and the real husk started to come out, and she would be quite mean, particularly around the things that she would say towards the beacon. So yeah, a mean drunk. And the beacon picked up on this before I did, I have to say. But once the beacon pointed it out, I could see it. And it was almost like I would often give the husk, just say what you mean. I don't like people beating around the bush. Just tell us what you mean. Tell us what you think. Tell us the truth. And then when I give her that platform, she would be pretty brutal on whatever subject. And some of it was quite hurtful towards the Beacon and I. And it wasn't until really I woke up the next morning and thought about it that I thought, it's not a healthy place to be, having conversations like that. It's all well and good telling the truth, but I'm not even sure. Well, it wasn't even the truth, it was just the truth as in her opinion. She's not hiding her opinion. It's not actually the truth. It's just her giving her honest opinion, letting the mask down, letting the husk down. So that became apparent as well. Another thing, so quickly going back to stepdad, in order to help him settle in, because again it was a big move and I don't think he had much choice in the matter. In order to help him settle in, obviously I was taking him to the allotment every day, and also I would take him out every Wednesday and every Friday for a pint down at the pub, or across up the valley to another village where I had a friend at the time, and we'd go for a drink there on a Friday. But every week I'd be taking stepdad out for a drink, just to give him something to look forward to and break up the monotony of just sitting in the lodge, because his social life was a big part of his life, seeing his mates at the club for a pint, and obviously he was missing out on that. So I tried to make up for that as well. Again, I didn't mind doing it. I enjoyed his company and I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed making him feel happy in his new home. But again, how many people would do that? Putting myself second. So that's another thing to point out. I don't think there's much more to say about this early period of living next door to a sociopathic mother-in-law. I'm not sure there's much to add, anything relevant. It was just at times a little bit hard work. Clearly impulsive decisions were being made which affected us. No empathy. Whenever you challenged her, you were just met with resistance. A lack of taking responsibility, no empathy, and her regular excuse would just be, at the end of the day, I never give it a thought. And as soon as you hear that as the bottom line excuse, the excuse that when every other excuse has failed, I just never give it a thought. Whenever you hear that's a telltale sign that you're dealing with somebody with basically no empathy, or very, very, very little empathy, especially in situations where it's quite normal to have given it a thought, to give somebody else's feelings or opinions a thought, how the decision's going to affect them, give that a thought. It just shows you how selfish people are when they say that, and they're so they have such a lack of awareness and lack of self-awareness that they think that is a good, valid excuse. It's actually the worst thing somebody could say. I just never thought about you. Didn't care. Yeah. So, yeah. Selfish and severely lacking of empathy.